Hello everybody, welcome back to the shop. Pull a seat up next to the fire. And let me tell you what, this fire is a little bit easier to make than that fire. But this fire is pretty easy once you get it dialed in. So I thought I would do a quick little video on what I learned about fire starting with a bow drill. Now, I am obviously no expert. I've only done it once. I watched plenty of videos on YouTube how to do it, and that eventually led me to success. But I figured that a video from someone like me, who made plenty of mistakes along the way, I could help some of you guys and gals out there trying to do it yourself. This pile of stuff here is all the stuff that was wrong, and then this pile of stuff here is what led me to success. So let's talk about it. Now, firstly, here's one of the first spindles we made. There's two problems with this spindle. Firstly, it's not perfectly straight. You see it's got a little curve to the right there. And also it's way too thick. It should be about thumb thickness, and it's just too big. Second problem, we were using this is just a strand that we unwound from some somewhat thicker rope, 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch rope, something like that, and it's I don't know, polyester, whatever, and it's a little too thick, and also as you use it, and it doesn't take long, the small little fibers pull off. This rope, this piece is actually pretty decent, but the fibers pull off and make this fuzz along the rope. So as this, it's wound around the spindle, and it catches on itself as you're trying to saw back and forth with the bow, and it just makes you put that much more effort into sawing back and forth with the bow, and sometimes it just binds up completely and just screws everything up. Another problem I had here, this is one of the fireboards I tried making, and I batoned it in half with my hatchet, but you can see it's also got a curve, and at least on the concrete floor, maybe if you're doing this on dirt it wouldn't really matter, but it's wobbly, and if you were to stand on it here, which is how you should, there's a gap between the board and the floor. And that's no good, because you want your shavings, or whatever you call it, that are falling through this gap here, this V, you want them to collect in the V, but in this case it just kind of falls out and goes everywhere. The last thing that gave me trouble was the top bearing block, the part that you hold in your hand to hold the guide, the top part of the spindle. I just grabbed some random piece of wood from the firewood pile, cut it in half, and put a little divot. This particular piece isn't used, but I used this wood. I put a little divot in there with my knife and used that, but this is too dry and too soft. So what happens is that your top bearing block piece starts doing the same thing that your fireboard does. It starts making friction and making heat, and there were a number of times that I got smoke off the top bearing block before the fireboard. So that made me start doubting the fireboard. I thought I had wet wood or something, but this wood is fine. This, I believe, is poplar or tulip poplar. Let me take a look at the bark there. I don't know. It's a fairly light wood, but it is a deciduous tree. So to move over here to what led me to success, I changed the bowstring to this. This is number 36 bank line, Catahoula, I think, bank line. Really nice stuff. It holds together well. It's got some texture for grip, but it doesn't fray. Also, I wrapped the cord around in in this fashion. You can kind of see how I did it. This is loose now, obviously, but I would pull it tight, and the way I have the line wrapped around here, that helps keep the bowstring kind of centered. And I didn't tie this end off, I just pulled it tight, and then when I had it where I wanted it, I wrapped the tail end around on top of itself to lock it in place. Then I just held it with my hand. Then I made a new fireboard. It was a little bit flatter. I also shaved and trimmed some high sections so it sets nice and flat on the floor. I also thinned it a little bit. It's a little thinner than the original. See, the original is on the right, and then the successful one's on the left. I don't know if that really made a difference, but I made it thinner anyway. But the flatness definitely helped for collecting the ember. Then here's the new spindle. You see it's much straighter. It's a little knobby, but it's straight. And it's much thinner. It's much closer to the size of my thumb. And it's the same material as this, which I think is poplar or tulip poplar or something like that. We have a lot of these in my woods, and a lot of them are dying for some reason, so there's a lot of dry wood that can be had from my firewood pile and brush pile. And the last thing, I did cheat a little bit, okay, but you should start easy and then make things more difficult. For the top bearing block that you hold in your hand, I use this chunk of metal that I drilled a little divot into. And this steel is obviously way harder than the wood, so I had much less friction here. You can see the top part of the spindle isn't burnt at all. It's a little discolored just from the metal. But this one, well, you know, actually this particular spindle didn't get used that much, but it's a little more charred. And there were plenty of times when the bearing block end was just as charred as the end that's supposed to be charred. And then that's really it. I used just a random piece of bark for my ember catch. And then once I had a good ember, I've also been struggling with tinder. I initially tried using the inner bark that I peeled off of this tree, this piece of wood. It's this very papery stuff. I don't have any in here to show you. I threw it all out because it just wouldn't burn. I would put a lighter to it, a flame to it, just wouldn't burn. But I pulled this stuff out of the garden. This is just plain old grass, overgrown grass, and it's dead and dried, and this worked really well. And when you're making your tinder bundle, your bird's nest, you need really fine stuff, coarser stuff, and then coarser yet on the outside. So for the very fine tinder bundle part that you put the ember directly onto, I used these little fuzzies, and I stripped the fuzzies off by going back by pulling backwards on it. Like that. Then I collected all those fuzzies and tried to mush them as best I can into a little ball. And then for the medium tinder, I selected leaves off of the grass shaft, and I used the leaves and made another little nest out of that. And then for the outside, I just took a handful of this, crumpled it up, and made a bird's nest out of it. And that's the remnants of it. It's all burned very well. I gotta tell you, there is just something really amazing and magical about making fire this way. I've never done it before, obviously. It's just so cool. Like, we're so used to, at least I'm used to, if I want a fire, I throw all my garbage, bank statements and cardboard and whatever else, throw a bunch of wood on it, douse it with a gallon or two of waste oil that I always have laying around, and put a match or a lighter to it, and bam, there you go, there's a fire. but this is just so elegant and satisfying, and just makes you feel really good about yourself. Alright, so let's see if we can make some smoking flames. Here's my tinder bundle. It is a half-assed tinder bundle. If you actually wanted to start a fire, you definitely want something probably 3 times the size of this, but I just want to set it on fire to show you guys. So I took the coarse grass, mushed into a ball, and pushed my thumb in it, made a little bird's nest, put the leaves in there, then put the fuzzies in there in the middle, and I think that'll work just fine. Alright, so I put the piece of bark there, the ember catch. This fire, I mean, these holes do wear out, of course. See, I already have a first one here that I wore through. I think this one's got one more left in it. I'm gonna tighten my bowstring. Doesn't have to be balls tight, but I'm gonna pull it tight, wrap it around, wrap it on top of itself. I'll hold on to it. Take the spindle. Now I'm going to push down to loosen the string so I can get the spindle in there. Then you can hold it like this while you're getting everything ready. Now your first dozen strokes or so will be fairly even and not slow but not fast, just to get the char going. And then once that builds up a nice pile of char, then you give it some extra ass and really put some heat into it, and that'll make your ember. Enough. Yep, the char pile is smoking on its own, so I'll carefully take my foot off. And you let that smolder for a bit, let the ember get going. See that glow? Look at that. It's a big fatty. I'm going to try to do this so you can see it. Haha. I gotta say, it is just amazing. It's difficult to get there, but once you get there, it's pretty damn easy. It really is. And it makes you feel, I don't even know what it makes you feel. And I like to joke around and say, oh, it makes you feel like a real man, but how many men out there can start a fire like this? Maybe more than I think, maybe less, I don't know. there you go. Super easy once you get everything dialed in just right. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. I sure had fun doing this. And as you see, that second hole is just about cooked, just like the first one. Near the end of my stroking, it was getting kind of hard to saw it back and forth. Since it's so deep, there's a lot of surface area there, a lot of friction. And the first one, that was the hole on the right side, that was quite challenging. But I was so determined to make fire, I just kept going. So you do have to renew the hole every, I guess, 2 attempts. And also, the tip of your spindle should be renewed every so often. This should be cut a lot blunter. That's all there is to it, though. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you have some fun doing some bushcraft stuff, learning how to survive, how to live like a real human. And if you have any comments or anything, leave them down below. Hit the subscribe button, the like button if you enjoyed this, and I'm sure you did, because I did too. That's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. Come on back for more.